G'day all. Right, we're up nice and early thanks to daylight savings. It's still very, very dark. But anyway, today we're going to head on out to Trunkey Creek and we're going to go and do some exploring along a couple of creeks out there. So we're going to go and look at probably about 3 different creeks. One of them I know has definitely got gold, the other 2 I'm not sure about. So we'll do a bit of exploring and see what we can find in these creeks. We've got some really good bedrock areas. It's an interesting spot out there. There's actually opal out in a certain location out here at Trunkey Creek, so we may actually come across some of this opal as well. So we're in the lead up of the V8 supercar race here at Mount Panorama at Bathurst, and things are gearing up. We're about a week out. Today's the Monday, the public holiday before the race weekend. And I've just pulled up on one of the, or next to one of the sporting fields here at Bathurst that normally get utilised for the V8 races. I'll just turn the camera around and show you what's here. This is what they affectionately call Tent City. So, as you can see, accommodation gets pretty scarce in Bathurst this time of year. But anyway, let's jump in the vehicle, start driving. By the time we get out there, there'll be a bit of light around. And we'll get into it and see if we can find some nice gold. Let's go. Here we are at Trunkey Creek. So I've just pulled up in front of the pub. Unfortunately it's not open, so I can't grab a beer. Now for all you guys that are out there creating videos, there's a lot of people out there that will not like what you do, regardless of what videos you make. You know what? You're going to get that no matter what you do in life, whether it's making videos or whatever it is. You're always going to get people that don't like what you do. That's fine. People are entitled to do that. Now, I myself have my loyal haters that love to follow what I do and dislike everything I do. You can always see that thumbs down. Always. You're always going to get them. Don't worry about it. A very, very famous person once said, if you do not go through, or if you go through life without somebody hating you, you have never stood up for anything that's worthwhile. Truer words could not have ever been said. Don't worry about people that don't like what you do. You go out and enjoy the things that you enjoy. People are going to hate it regardless. So, get out there, do the things you love. Don't let anybody tell you different. Don't let anybody try and stop you from doing it. Anyway, all right, well, we're going to head in towards a forestry now, into a forestry area. And then we'll go down onto a creek. And there's something there I want to show you before we actually start doing any panning. A little bit of history on the gold in the area. All right, we'll keep going and I'll head on in. Here we are. We've made it down onto one of the creeks we're going to have a look at today. Now this is the thing that I wanted to show you, is that's of interest, a bit of history of the the gold in the area. Now, back in the gold rush days, the Chinese were very, very good at gold recovery, and they worked damn hard to get the gold that they got. Now, the European guys had a nickname for the Chinese. Now, I'm not a big name calling person, but this is all part of the Australian history of gold. One of the nickname that Chinese got were chinks. Now, I can tell you how that name come about. What I'm standing on here is a basalt flow. So it's an old lava flow. You can see the basalt cap there on the hill. So that basalt has flowed down across here. And then the creek comes down and it's flowed over this basalt flow. There was a lot of gold discovered here. And because the creek came to this basalt flow and had to rise up and run over it, it was a natural gold trap because the gold wouldn't rise up and come over the basalt flow. Chinese, being very, very industrious workers, cut a channel through this so they could actually work the gold on the other side of it. And this area is known as Chinaman's Rock. And they cut that channel through this basalt flow so that they could work the gold on the upstream side of this basalt flow. So you can see they did quite a bit of work by hand to cut that channel through that basalt. Now, you think about that. They were there with hammers and picks and chisels, knocking that out. You know what noise that would have made? That's right. Chink, chink, chink. And that's how the Chinese got their nickname, chinks. Because wherever they worked, they generally worked in rock, like pure rock. And they worked at it because the Chinese were the ones that put in a lot of the water races around into the alluvial deposits so that they could work them. So that wherever the Chinese were, you'd always hear them chipping away at rock, going chink, chink, chink. And that's how they got that nickname. So there's a little bit of history. Now, the bridge that I'm on, the creek that I'm on is called Rocky Bridge Creek. Now, whether the name come about because of what I'm about to show you, or whether it's something completely different, I don't know. But have a look at this. We've got the basalt flow, and there's a little rock bridge. That is pretty cool, I reckon. Man, they worked. They worked so hard to get their gold. Alrighty. We're going to go downstream from here, and I'm going to find a couple of areas to work and just do some panning and just see if we can find some gold really quick. I've got a feeling if I go downstream here a couple of K, once again, getting out of the general area where you can drive to, you're going to have to walk into these areas. That's generally where you find your easy gold. Anywhere where you can drive onto a creek or a river, easy accessible, you're not going to find gold. Everybody does it. Everybody likes to drive somewhere, step out and find it. Doesn't happen anymore. You've got to work for your gold. Alright, let's keep going downstream. First spot that I've walked onto. See the road up there, and I just happened to look down when I was driving and seen some nice bedrock here on a little bit of a bend. And straight away, there's a couple of nice little pockets. That one there in particular, everything is rock solid, jam packed in there really hard. So I'll give them a try to start off with. Really nice little creek. Some nice big chunks of quartz out here too. There's a really wide variety of different types of rock out here. You've got everything from silt shale, like a silt rock, which is sedimentary, or your volcanics like basalt, and particularly what you find the opaline out here is what they call viscular basalt. So that's basalt that's got air pockets in it, and the opal is actually formed in the air pockets in the basalt. So hopefully, if I go far enough down the creek, we'll actually be able to find some of this. And then you've got all your granite. So, but granite, once again, is also associated with volcanics. I won't get into all the different technical names for all the different types of rock, but generally the darker the colour, the closer it is to basalt, until you get right up to your light colours in your granites, which is still, it is basalt, but it's basalt that is cooled very slowly underground. Anyway, won't get into that. Let's dig a couple of little pockets out and see what we can get. First pan of material washed. Gold, straight off the bat. I haven't got right to the very bottom yet, and it dives right in underneath like that. I'm using, Gary from Two Toes sent me this. I'm using this tool, which you can see is really, really thin. I'm using that tool to get right to the bottom, or close to the bottom as I can, and try and scrape the material back out. But just what's come off the top, some nice little rough bits of gold. There's 4. So we're onto it straight away. All right, well, I'm going to clean this one right out, and then there's one directly under my feet at the moment. I'm going to have a dig in that one too and see what we get out of that. Come on, son. It's still bloody cold. Walked a fair way downstream. Have a go with the bedrock here. Pockets that are just jam-packed with material. One after another after another. Even these small ones. So there's that many spots to work here. The mind boggles. Just little tiny holes in the bedrock that have just filled up with material. And then there's all these cracks. It's crevicing heaven. You could spend years just crevicing in this one creek. I just worked that little area there. One dish. Look at that rough bit of gold. That's just off the top. It does pay to get out and just walk. It really does. Alright, I'm not going to spend a great deal of time in each of these crevices. I'm just going to have a bit of a scratch in each one that I come across. I'm just going to keep walking. Who knows what we'll find. If I find something that's going to produce 20 or 30 colours, then I'll start spending a bit of time on it. But so far, every crevice I've dug has given me gold. Alright, we'll keep heading downstream. Now, as I said earlier, I'm not going to spend a great deal of time in these crevices. I'm just going to have a quick scratch, see what I get, and then move on until I can find a crevice that's going to give me 20 or 30 colours. Right, so I didn't get a crevice that gave me 20 or 30 colours, but I am going to spend a bit more time in it, and I'll show you why. So we're right on a bend. We're just past the bend, and all up here we've got log jams. So the water is actually spread right out. It's pretty hard to see in the video, but it's a really wide bend. So you've got a big bar of material that starts to form just after the bend. Now we've got some trees growing in the middle of the creek, and that's probably why we're starting to get build up of material. But anyway, I kept walking down, climbed over the log jam, and I just thought, yep, there's a likely looking little spot. We've got a bit of a channel there, so it's going to funnel all the material through, and just a little pocket. So I just scraped the material off the top of that and threw it in the pan and panned it. Now, keep in mind this isn't 20 or 30 colours, but I think you'll agree with me, it's worth spending a bit more time in this crevice. Nice lumpy bits of gold. that one I can't pick up, so yeah. I haven't got to the bottom. That's only what I've scraped off the top there. So that's why I'm not spending a great deal of time on each crevice. If I get a few colours, great. I just keep going until I find little pockets like this where there's been a good concentration of gold. Keep going down, see what I get. Got down right to the bottom and cleaned it out. Got a couple more specks out of the bottom of that. Moved over to this one. Cleaned it out reasonably well. Got a couple of specks out of that. Then I went down and just took a couple of scoops out of there. Now, that there was very loosely packed. I just put the shovel in and dig it. Got no gold. So, alright, well, keep on going downstream, see if we can find another crevice to work. I didn't get very far. Bit of bedrock here. And it's all sedimentary, been pushed up. It's like knife blades. A millipede crawling along the rock there. Yeah, have a look in behind these flat sections of rock. There's just crevices that are packed with material. So once again, I'll have a scratch in a few of these crevices and see what we get. I've just brought the dish down from where I'm working there, those few crevices, and I want to show you something. Now, you've heard people talk about fool's gold. Well, this is fool's gold. Now, first thing I want to show you is have a look at the patterns that actually appear in the water when you start moving the dish around. It just looks like muddy water at the moment, but you start moving the material around and it gets like that hammer finish paint. Anybody that's ever seen that? It's like a metallic look to the water. So if I get down here close and just start tipping that back, can you see all that shiny material? Oodles and oodles of pyrite, crushed up fine. That's fool's gold. It's pretty easy to see why people get excited when they see that. But anyway, well, that's something else I've shown you now, so I'll pan that out and see what's in it. You'll be able to see all the shine of the pyrite come up here. There's just millions and millions and millions of shiny little colours. But once you see gold with pyrite, there is no mistaking the difference between one and the other. Alright, let's go down a little bit further and try another one. Those of you that watch Chris of Vogus Prospecting know that he's done a couple of videos recently about finding steel and an iron in the gravels. Now, if you don't watched Chris or you haven't seen his videos, get over to Vogus Prospecting, subscribe to him, and check out his stuff, because he's onto some pretty good ideas about finding gold. And this is just one of these things that stands out straight away when you're actually trying to find that line of gold in gravels. So you can see there's just masses and masses of rock here. Areas of bedrocks poking up out of gravels. But what caught my eye, in behind this big flat rock here, is a bit of steel that's dropped out of the flood in behind that bit of rock. And it's sitting on bedrock too. So it would stand to reason, when you're actually standing looking back upstream, you got that high pressure area, and then you got the gravels flowing up, so that you got the material vortexing. It's right on the edge of all this material, so that would be a prime spot. But of course, am I going to dig it? No. All I want to do is I want to try and keep working my way down here and try and find some of these locations where you can find opal in the basalt. That's my main objective to go today. I've already found gold. I'm pretty much find gold anywhere I go, most of the time. But all I want to do is just see if I can find where this opal is. And I say that would be something special, because I've heard people talk about it. I've read all about the opal out here, but I've never actually found it. So today's the day where I'm just going to keep on walking, doing a few test pans, and hopefully I'll find this area where we can find some opal in the basalt. All right, let's keep going. I do believe I'm getting close to where I need to be. So now I can actually show you what viscular basalt looks like. You see all these little air bubbles. That's actually formed around a solid bit, but there's actually like a ring of air bubbles there. But all through this, like, there's a real defined line where the bubbly or porous basalt is compared to the solid. And it's not the only bit that's here. There's another bit there. And some more of it just there. I'm not seeing any opal in it yet, but hopefully I'm getting close. All right, we'll go a bit further and hopefully we'll find this stuff. So I've just come down a bit further and I've walked onto a really sharp bend in the creek. Now, there's a huge bluff of rock that the creek just runs straight on into, and the creek turns 90 degrees. So it's going down, hitting that bluff of rock, and then turning 90 degrees. And what we've got is a massive area of build-up of gravel and boulders. But what's really intriguing, and it's really caught my eye, is we all know that gold travels on the inside bends when the creeks and rivers are in flood. And right there is a little flooding area that's right on the very bend. So as all that flood water builds up, any of the material that's travelling around this close to this inside bend is getting taken down there, because it all builds up and it's all a massive low pressure area over in there. So we'll cross over and we'll go and have a look down there, and we'll wash a couple of pans. We might find something decent. Let's go and have a look. I didn't walk very far down this little flooding area, and I just found a rock. I just had a bit of a scratch behind it. Just got in there and scratched a bit of stuff off the top and panned it, and got two tiny little specks. They are tiny. And the other one's washed down towards the bottom of the dish, so I'm not going to spend too much time in here. So I'm going to keep going down a little bit further. I might walk around this big bluff of rock, and then I might turn around and start working my way back up the creek. There could actually be a change on the way. There's birds calling out and the insects are starting to get more and more active, so we could end up with a bit of rain this afternoon. All right, well, I'll say we'll go a little bit further. We don't find what we're looking for, we'll turn around, we'll just start walking back up. And I'll say we'll have a pan on the way back up. And if there's any time left in the day, we'll go and have a look at one of these other creeks. All right, we'll keep going down. I've reached the point where I'm going to leave the chase for the opal for another day. This is as far down the creek as I'm going to go. And I say this is a nice area where there's just a bar of rock, or bars of rock running straight across the creek from one side to the other. And I'm just going to sit here and work some of these crevices. So there's some nice little packed crevices in this bar of rock. That one there, particularly good. Rightio, I made it back to the truck. It's now 5:45. I turned around and started walking back at 1 o'clock. But anyway, didn't find the opal. They'll have to wait for another trip. But I did find some nice bits of gold, so I'll show you that. Then I better get out of here. I've just about used up all the memory space on me phone, so hopefully it won't cut out. You can see some nice bits of gold there. All right, that's it for another day. Well, get out there and get into it. Don't be afraid to go and have a bit of a walk and check out some new areas. All right, until the next video, have a good one. Hope you find lots of yellow, and I'll talk to you later.